Deputy, before I start, allow me to thank you for giving me some form of relaxation by repairing my chair and now giving me proper armrests. These were missing for some time. As my strength increases, you note that I'm becoming very comfortable. I'm now taking off my shoes so that I can relax during this next 30 minutes. First, I want to thank Killarney residents for giving me this opportunity to be here this evening and for several years and to participate in this debate today. Mr. Deputy, the collective security of the community is a major responsibility of the state. We need our order as the foundation of our society. And that order allows us to peacefully raise families, to do businesses, and to pursue our dreams in our Commonwealth. When the people elect a party to govern, they expect the party to fight to ensure there is order. It takes effort to prevent disorder from taking over. An administration must work hard to make sure the systems that keep our justice and policing structures functioning are healthy and remain vibrant. The now governing party paraded up and down the Bahamas during the last general election campaign, proclaiming they had all the answers to the problems facing our country. They sold the dream of a new day if the people elected them, and the people elected them on the 16th of September 2021. They won the trust of the Bahamian people on that day. This is the first full year of the New Day administration led by the member for Cat Island. And when it comes to handling crime, this has been the worst start of any administration in modern Bahamian history. At the recently passed halfway mark to the year, the country was on pace for a murder record. This is how the member for Cat Island has begun his term leading our country. This is how the party that said it had all the answers is leading our country. Shootings and killings are commonplace on our most populated island. Gunmen settle their disputes openly. Innocent bystanders could get caught up in the crossfire. With no coherent crime plan anyone knows of, the Davis administration has stood by, dumbfounded on the sidelines as violent crime surge in New Providence. Bahamians have looked to the Prime Minister for leadership as the chaos worsens. And sadly, they've gotten none from the member for Cat Island. And many wonder if the job has become too much and burdensome for him. Maybe the Prime Minister is out of the country so much because the crisis after crisis facing our country bring too much stress. Mr. Deputy, I thought the governing party would be in here today with a compendium of bills to deal with crime due to challenges we face. I thought they would at least try to get a handle on the violence that is out of control here in New Providence. When the member for Freetown spoke during the budget debate, he said the major crime was up 18% in the country through the first 5 months of the year. This was fueled by a high spike in New Providence. Things have not gotten better, Mr. Deputy. When a party in power has no ideas on crime, as is the case with the New Day administration, Parliament only gets one-off bills before it that are not part of an overall strategy. The legislation we debate today is the Rehabilitation of Offenders Amendment Bill 2022. The bill seeks to treat rehabilitated persons convicted of certain offenses specified by the minister by order. Before the order becomes law, it must be approved by the affirmative resolution of each House of Parliament. The bill further provides that in respect of the convictions declared by the order, offenders will have those convictions treated as spent and have those convictions records expunged. The administration has foreshadowed that it will use this amendment to expunge the records of people convicted of minor offenses under the emergency orders. And of course, the powers under this proposed amendment could be used to expunge the records of various other people convicted of other offenses, except for those serious offenses prohibited in the wider Act. Mr. Deputy, I support expunging the records of those convicted of minor infractions of the law during the emergency orders. The emergency orders were temporary measures put in place during the worst crisis in our recent history. Many forget where we were when the pandemic began. The Bahamas has one of the worst health profiles in the world. We have an obesity crisis. There is high prevalence of chronic non-communicable diseases such as diabetes and hypertension. People with COVID-19 who have these chronic conditions are more likely to suffer from serious disease. There was no population immunity at the beginning of the pandemic. There were no vaccines. There were no treatments. Rules were put in place to limit the spread of the virus, to prevent sickness, and to prevent deaths. Clearing the records of those who committed minor infractions of the past rules is reasonable now that we are beyond those worst days. However, there were some more substantive breaches during that period. The administration should be careful to distinguish between the minor and the more substantive violations of the law. Mr. Deputy, it is to be determined how the administration uses the authority in this bill in the future. I have publicly stated many times that I support expunging the records of Bahamians convicted of minor possession of marijuana or personal use. The Davis administration has said it will liberalize our cannabis laws. Mr. Deputy, I will say that, let me state that for the record, I would refer to quite a number of articles, documents of which I will adopt, and I will sign and table at the end. Clearing the records of people who have minor marijuana possession convictions helps these people move on with their lives. Our system can be too punitive for relatively minor matters. We should give second chances to people who make minor mistakes and move on with their lives as upstanding citizens. The Bahamians made a big mistake, but we'll move on. Our focus should be on swiftly and aggressively dealing with menaces to society. And that's where this administration is failing early in their term. Mr. Deputy, I was surprised. I was surprised to read recent comments by the Prime Minister on the state of our justice system. The member for Cat Island has become good at explaining the problems and saying what is wrong. I wonder if he realizes that he is the head of government who is expected to bring solutions to the problem. In a June 28th, 2022 Eyewitness News story headlined, quote, Davis, courts must pay more attention to those on bail. Judicial system on verge of collapse. The Prime Minister made the remarkable claim that our judicial system is on the verge of collapse. He said, I am not one to take any glee in the fact that the person who may have been killed is known to the police or on bail. All lives are important to me, I'm still quoting Davis, and it's a multifaceted situation. He went on, the courts have to pay more attention to persons who are going to be out on bail. The courts have to take control of their trials so that people can have trials. He went on, I mean, the backlog of cases is just astronomical and is almost nearing the brink of collapse, in my view. That's his words. And so the courts have to step up and they need to hear these cases, end quote. Mr. Deputy, the Prime Minister is doing what he does best. He's talking about what he thinks others should do about the problem, but not doing anything useful himself to help solve it. He previously did this on the issue of crime when he was explaining what he thinks the United States should be doing to deal with the guns here in the Bahamas. In a May 31st, 2022 Eyewitness News story headlined, "Do More." Prime Minister calls on U.S. to intervene on American gun traffickers linked to the Bahamas. The Prime Minister was there again, explaining what he thinks others need to do to address the country's crime problem. He said, quote, "We have been really anxious about the fact that the U.S. government, well, let me put it this way, the U.S. having trafficked most of our guns that we criminals use in violent crimes here to specific shops in the United States and to manufacturers, and even being able to identify the persons who even bought those guns." Davis told reporters on the sidelines, that is the Prime Minister, on the 36th annual general meeting of the Association of the Caribbean Commissioners of Police. He said, "We are saying to the Americans, they need to do more. And whereas we don't want to get involved in the domestic issue about the right to bear arms, we are concerned that purchasers of guns are not just buying it to bear, but rather to export and to traffic." He continued, and they need to have that need to have an intervention that where the evidence appeared to them that a person is not just buying it in the exercise of their right to bear it, but rather buying it for the purpose of trafficking, that some legislative intervention has to be engaged to make those persons responsible and accountable for the arms they purchase, end quote. Mr. Deputy, the United States is our friend and our partner. It does a lot to assist us with law enforcement, but it is not the job of the United States to fix the Bahamian crime problem for a prime minister who does not know.
Mr. Deputy, on the point of order.
The chair recognizes the honourable member for Fort Charlotte.
The honourable member is totally mischaracterized the Prime Minister's intervention that he has just read. What the Prime Minister pointed out is that the Bahamian police force is doing an excellent job in tracking, apprehending, and getting the intelligence that the people who are sending the weapons to the Bahamas are not being prosecuted. What do you expect the Prime Minister to do? The Bahamian police is doing what they're supposed to do. I expect that my Prime Minister would not be afraid to speak to our friends. That is what a Bahamian Prime Minister is supposed to do, because the police here identifies, get the intelligence. The intelligence are given to the United States, and I've sat in meetings with the Prime Minister, with representatives from the State Department, and the Prime Minister is representing to them that we want to see our friends prosecute the people who are sending and facilitating the shipment of weapons that are killing my people. That's what a Bahamian Prime Minister is supposed to do.
Thank you, honourable member.
Thank you very much, Mr. Deputy. Mr. Deputy, I have no doubt that the police is doing an excellent job. The police is doing an excellent job. I have no doubt. But the people hired the Prime Minister and the present government to deal with crime. However he wants to interpret it, that's fine with him. The member for Cat Island needs to start taking responsibility for his failures as a leader. He needs to stop explaining what the judiciary must do or what foreign countries must do. The member for Cat Island needs to say what he will do to get this problem under control. He needs to find a coherent plan that will help reduce crime. If it is that the judiciary needs assistance from Parliament in order to carry out its independent mandate, then the administration should properly consult the Chief Justice and come to Parliament to get approval to swiftly provide all that the judiciary requires. If the Prime Minister does not know what to do, he should then admit that to the Bahamian people, that he has no ideas on crime. The people would then know that before them stands a leader incapable of carrying out the responsibilities of the office he holds.
The chair recognizes the honourable member for Fort Charlotte.
Mr. Deputy, the honourable member must be fully aware, this honourable member of Killarney, that we have an independent judiciary in the Commonwealth of the
But they say what they need. We accept that.
And in fact, Mr. Deputy, the backlog is, in every democratic society, it's not unusual for issues which affect backlog, for example, for there to be commentary. But that's not interfering, because the judiciary is independent. Every judge is secured with security of tenure. The Prime Minister is not going to go or seek to go into the judiciary to clear the backlog. An observation is made, and in democratic societies, those observations are made privately and they're made publicly. But to impute that the Prime Minister making an observation amounts to an interference with the judiciary, I think the honorable member would want to withdraw that imputation. Thank you. Oh, okay, thank you.
I never said interference. What I said, no, you know exactly what I said. Mr. Deputy, allow me to continue. Allow, no, you were all the time.
Prime Minister should be interfering.
When you finish,
that's...
Thank you.
I
honourable
never
member.
said such thing.
Okay.
Mr. Deputy, when we last met, you can hear about interference. The member for Cat Island challenged my assertion that there was an official police investigation into the member for Elizabeth over allegations that she assaulted a police officer. I was shocked that he challenged this because the media repeatedly reported on the matter over the past few months. Due to the Prime Minister's remarkable intervention, I am now calling... Allow me to finish. Allow me.
The chair recognizes the honourable member for Fort Charlotte.
Again, Mr. Deputy, this honorable member, first of all, Mr. Deputy, I see all kinds of things on social media. But when I come here, I am guided by the rules of the House. And I do not seek to use my privilege to put scandalous, unfounded allegations that may traffic on social media in this honorable House, especially if it's improper imputation on a member. And therefore, this issue has been raised, it's been commented upon, and I understand that if there is any, come on, it is improper.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you very much. I don't refer to social media. I don't. I said, Mr. Deputy, that everything I say here, at the end, I will table the document. I will table this document. I will table this document. Police Commissioner investigates alleged carnival altercation. And I will table many other documents. Allow me to finish. Allow me to finish. Due to the Prime Minister's remarkable intervention, I am now calling for the new Commissioner Clayton Fernanda to provide the public with a written update on the investigation into the member for Elizabeth. The Prime Minister has caused mass confusion on this matter. There is a TV news interview where former Commissioner Paul Rowell told the entire media world that he had an Assistant Commissioner of Police investigating the matter. The interview is posted on the R News Facebook page from May 31st, 2022. Former Commissioner Rowell said, I quote, "I have one of the assistant commissioners conducting an investigation to find out exactly what happened," end quote. Then, in a June 30th, 2022 story published by Eyewitness News headlined, "Cop, Commissioner of Police, Cop, Colby Davis investigation referred to Royal Bahamas Police Force Complaints Branch." Former Commissioner Rowell said the Police Complaints Branch was investigating the matter. An explosive story was published by Eyewitness News regarding this investigation on Tuesday, July 12th, 2022. I will not raise the substance of that story in this place. But Mr. Deputy, the public needs clarity on this. Commissioner Fernanda, my apology. Commissioner Fernanda needs to put in writing what is the status of this investigation so that we all have the same set of facts. We do not need the Prime Minister confusing the situation. It is important, Mr. Deputy, that Commissioner Fernanda gives this update in the soonest possible time now that the Prime Minister has said what he said. Mr. Deputy, I say again, as I've said before, I call on the Prime Minister to invite the member for Elizabeth while the matter is being investigated to resign or step down from the post of transport while the investigation is proceeding in transport, not housing. Mr. Deputy, a similar situation occurred in 2015. When in May 2015,
The chair recognizes the honourable member for Freetown.
Mr. Speaker, the Royal Bahamas Police Force Road Traffic Division is not in the Ministry of Transport. It's in the Royal Bahamas Police Force that isn't even subject to the direction of the Minister of National Security. It's subject to the constitutionally guaranteed independent direction of the Commissioner of Police. There's absolutely nothing related to transport in the matter. There's absolutely no road traffic dimension. There's no transport dimension.
There's no conflict there at all.
No conflict.
Mr. Deputy, we're referring to road traffic. A similar situation, Mr. Deputy, occurred in 2015 when a minister was being investigated for a particular matter. The Prime Minister was then deputy at that time, and the minister was requested, well, the minister had offered to step down while the investigation continued, and he continued with the other component of his ministry. When Christie, the Prime Minister at that time, was asked why did he ask the minister to step down during an investigation, Prime Minister Christie said, and I quote at that time, because, I quote, it's the right thing to do. Mr. Deputy, if it was the right thing in 2015, why is it not the right thing in 2022?
The chair recognizes the honourable member for Freetown.
It is, the point of order is that that's a misleading statement. The previous matter the member for Killarney referred to was supposedly an interaction between the minister responsible for local government and a local government administrator who would be involved in the investigation of the event. From what Killarney has said, this police corporal isn't under the direction of the Ministry of Transport at all. He is under the direction of the Commissioner of Police. The Minister of Transport has no ability to direct a police corporal, even a police constable, to do anything at all. Nor do I. I can't direct a police officer to do a thing.
You confused.
I'm glad he said that. Mr. Deputy, the Prime Minister questioned during last debate, him being a lawyer and me being a doctor. I want to remind the Prime Minister that many legal matters are resolved and decisions are made in court by evidence produced by physicians and by their records. The records are always present. It's only a matter of subpoena the physician and the records. And the records would speak for itself. Mr. Deputy, I am concerned an active investigation is going on. The Minister of National Security, when interviewed yesterday, said that the police had shown him unreleased footage and witness statements and report, and the minister said This report supports the minister, not the police. Now, Mr. Deputy, I would have thought that there's a commissioner of police, the police performing an investigation, he would respond to the commissioner. The minister is a policy maker. That is direct interference in an investigation by a minister. The individuals.
Yeah, the chair recognizes the honorable member for Freetown.
Unless the member for Killarney has any evidence that this member has interfered with any police officer doing a duty, he ought to withdraw that. If he were to watch, because it's a video, so he doesn't have to depend on a journalist's interpretation of it, he would see that I said that I'm briefed on that as I am briefed on violent crimes by the police, and that I do not get involved in investigations. They tell me what occurs with a minister of government so that I may brief the Prime Minister. You really should handle people's name and reputation a bit better than that, Killarney, because we were very nice to you today.
Mr. Deputy, it's on record where the minister himself said that the police had shown him unreleased footage and witness statements. And from what he said, these reports support the minister, meaning the minister who was involved in the event, and not the police. Mr. Deputy,
Yes, the chair recognizes the honorable member for Freetown.
Either. We've been hearing all day what people's opinions are, and everybody has an opinion. I may think I'm the prettiest man on the earth. That does not make it so. The bottom line to it is if he is to represent, he should be accurate. The response is that there were police officers on the scene, and the videos are consistent with what they say as well. And so he really ought to be honest if he's going to make representations.
Thank you, member.
Mr. Deputy, this is published all over Eyewitness News yesterday, 12/7/22, and I stand by those words. Mr. Deputy, one has to ask the question, with the minister receiving such information, is he prejudicing the investigation? And can it be interpreted as a form of interference or even intimidation, since those individuals are employed indirectly to the minister, and yet the minister himself is receiving information before the final investigation is completed? Every Bahamian would know that that can be interpreted as interfering. And one has to ask the question, is he now the commissioner of police? Is he the judiciary? He has already put out to public, that the evidence that he's seen favors the minister. He has already distorted the minds of the public and has prejudiced the case. He has prejudiced the case. He is not the commissioner of police. If he was appointed as commissioner of police, I have not yet been told, and maybe he'd inform us. Mr. Deputy, I also hope and pray that this new administration starts to take more seriously the crime crisis in New Providence. With more focus and discipline and less partying and traveling, more could be done to bring order to our island. Mr. Deputy, I thank you for those short words, and I would table the various documents as I have promised.
The chair recognizes the Honorable